Information Act, the news media has been notified and a copy of the agenda has been made available to the public. This meeting is open to the public, and the public is welcome to attend in person. All persons wishing to attend via YouTube, Sumter School District Board meeting, and Sumter School District Facebook page. The vision for our district is Sumter School District is committed to educating, empowering, and enriching the lives of all students to reach their full potential. Our mission is the Sumter School District is committed to providing a safe, nurturing, and high-quality educational environment that supports diversity and equips students for local and global success. The members of our board include Vice Chair Bonnie S. Disney, Esquire, Area 9, Sean T. Reagan, Area 5, Clerk, Daniel Palumbo, Area 1, Brittany English, Area 2, Tara Kaiser Johnson, Area 4, Matthew McLeod, Area 6, Sherry Smith, Area 7, Jeff Zell, Area 8, Denise Jones, Shaw Air Force Base Representative, and myself, Chair, representing Area 3, Ralph W. Canty. Our superintendent is Dr. William T. Wright, Jr., and Ms. Shantae A. Scott is the administrative manager to the superintendent and board of trustees. It is now my pleasure to call this meeting to order, and again to thank each of you for your presence, and always to invite you to become engaged in the teamwork of our Sumter School District. There are challenges, but the challenges are made simple and easier with the support of the total community. So thank you for your interest and for your diligence to make our district a great world-class district. We have the agenda before us. And it's really available for approval on common consent. However, I do want to invoke chairman privilege tonight and ask the board to allow us in our public participation to consider an extended time for presentation from the students of Sumter High School. If one of you are willing to make a motion to that effect, I would appreciate it.
Mr. Chair, I motion to extend up to 10 minutes for Sumter High School during their time.
Okay, would you mind attaching to the motion the adoption of the agenda and the, okay, if you don't mind.
Mr. Chair, also to amend the agenda to add additional 10 minutes for Sumter High School during their presentation.
Okay.
Mr. Chair, I second that motion.
You heard the motion and its support. I think we can do this by common consent. Yeah, all right. We will do it by common consent, okay? Anyone disagree? If no one disagrees, it is done by common consent. Thank you. All right, we're down to public participation. The Board of Trustees value public participation and recognizes the importance of public input on issues affecting Sumter School District. The Board of Trustees created an alternative process in addition to in-person public participation that will allow the public to communicate their comments. A Google form and telephone line have been established to allow for public participation during each regular meeting. Please note, before submitting comments for public participation in person or via electronic format, questions should be directed to appropriate district personnel and our departments, teachers, principals, chief of schools, superintendents, etc. If the concern has not been resolved after communications through these channels, please submit comments for public participation. Members of the public in person may complete a form provided to be submitted to the chairperson prior to the start of the meeting. Members of the public may submit their comments electronically by clicking the Submit Public Comments button at the bottom of the district web page. If a member of the public does not have access to the internet, please call 803-469-6900, extension 102. The electronic or telephone submission must contain the name of the person submitting the comments and the address and phone number of the individuals giving the district the ability to verify the sender if needed. The comments must be received by the district no later than Wednesday at noon before each regular board meeting. The board will allocate 15 minutes at the outset of each regular meeting for public participation. Public participation will not exceed 3 minutes for each individual unless waived by a majority vote of the board. The chairman reserves the right to limit discussion of same topic issues in an effort to provide individuals the opportunity to be heard on a variety of topics. The board will receive all public participation comments. Speakers may offer objective comments on school operations and programs that concern them. The board will not permit in public session any expression of personal complaints about individual school personnel or any other person connected with the school system. Comments from the public should not include gossip, defamatory words, or abusive or vulgar language. Questions will not be answered during the board meeting. The chairman will send a response on behalf of the board. Our first speaker this evening is Ms. Patty Wilson.
Good afternoon. My name is Patty Wilson, and I appreciate you giving me the opportunity to address you. I have a concern with our board a little bit, and just wanted to say to you that I'm sure there are a number of you that are new and may or may not have understood what your true roles are among each other. And so I just wanted to say to you that from my perspective to you, you are one now. You are one board and you represent one school district. And so there may be from time to time that things will come to your attention and you might feel that you want to make a comment on it. But please, please be fair. I got something in Facebook that really, really was not fair, and I took aught to it. And I will share it with you all later on. But understand that when things come to our attention in the public, we will take care of it from time to time, and we will bring it to your attention. And with our Shelley, who is our, I call her our number one person who will be working with us as our number one person who will bring information back to the school. We will give it to her, and hopefully you will get information from time to time. So with that, I appreciate you giving me the opportunity to speak to you, and I think you're doing a great job.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Carrington Pinckney. Mr. Pinckney. Oh, that's the Sumter High. I'm sorry. We're going to defer on the Sumter High people until last. That's what we have agreed on, right? Your second, we're agreeing to do them last. Okay. I did not know. I'm just looking at that. Okay. Daphne Boston. Curtis Boston. And
They're coming, Mr. Chair.
yeah, but I think, is this person coming with them? And J.J. Moultrie.
Thank you, sir.
Good evening to the board.
Good evening.
I'm Curtis Boston, retired veteran from Shaw Air Force Base, chairman of the board of Youth Academy, Inc., which is a 501c3 nonprofit organization. We're usually accompanied by our vice chair, which is Dr. Al Davis, retired Air Force as well. However, he had loss of a family member and was unable to make it with us today. And we thank you so much for allowing us to come before you today. And just to share with you just briefly, to give you some insight and overview on our organization. Also, an observation, we've noticed that the Maywood School has been vacant for some time, and we do have an interest in that area. But we've been in business for over 30 years, 20 years in Williamsburg County, South Carolina, working with at-risk youth. We were licensed through the state of South Carolina to work with at-risk youth for over 20 years, and from all over the state of South Carolina as well, from Department of Juvenile Justice, mental health, and social services. In 10 years, we were working in Sumter County, working with the youth there, in which we had in Williamsburg County, I got so many phone calls from the school with the behavioral children that we had, and they would always call me and say, one is running up and down the hall. So the superintendent and the board gave us a charter school to take the pressure off of them. And it also took the pressure off of us as well, so we could keep a better eye on the kids. And these children were unable to function in a large classroom setting because some were on high medication, and also the superintendent as well as the board in Williamsburg County allowed us to work with some of the kids in the community in a smaller setting in the charter school. So that's our area of concern with the children that we have that are at risk and the children that can't function in a large classroom setting. And it will, it did benefit me because I didn't have to run to the school all the time to go get one out of a tree, eating an ice cream cone, or locking themselves on a school bus. So we are petitioning you and asking you for, if Maywood is available at some point, if you consider letting us utilize that for children that are at risk or having problems in the larger classroom settings. And next, my wife, Ms. Boston, would like to share with you. Thank you so much.
I'd like to stand if I might. As he said, we usually deal with the at-risk youth just before they fall through the cracks. The 10 years we've been here, we've worked summer camp for the community. Our concern is in the community. And then during the year, we work with the parochial school. Most of the young people we work with, I wanted to show you you guys a few of them. Very few of them can finish high school. This is
Ms. Boston, if you could use the mic
okay.
so others could hear you, please.
Is that better? Or is that? Thank you. Okay. Is that better?
Yes,
Okay.
yes.
Okay. This is what Pastor was talking about in King Street. These were the at-risk youth in our group home, our residential setting, as well as from the community. These kids, very few of them can finish school. So what we did was we did have a charter school under the auspices of Williamsburg County School District. These are just some of the kids, but some of them came to Sumter with us. Okay, these are the successes of the people, the kids that made it that did not finish high school. What they did, we gave some of them different alternatives. Wait a minute, I didn't get the one from, this guy is now, he was a kid that was on drugs, or his family was in drugs, but he made it out successfully with our program. He owns his own taxi service in Columbia. So these are not the kids that make it, that are really sharp. These are the kids that can work with their hands, and we try to keep them from falling into the system. This young man, he had some emotional issues because his mother died of cancer when he was a young kid, so he couldn't make it in school. So what we did, we gave him an alternative school setting where he is now at Amazon. So he didn't fall through the cracks. Now we have this young man. He came to our group home from Myrtle Beach. He had some issues with drugs in the family. He could not finish school at first, and initially he went back. Now he works at a construction company, and he goes all over the world. So we were able to help save him just by helping him and keeping him from falling through the cracks. We have two more. I'm gonna save this until last. This young man is a Sumter kid. He was in our residential setting. He was in our group home, or the residential setting, and in the time is finished for 3 minutes? Okay, you can.
Good afternoon. My name is Stephanie Tisdale. I help with the charter school in King Street, South Carolina. But just to finish where Ms. Boston left off, this young man, he was in the residential setting, and he was unable to complete the school program. So we found different alternative measures to help him finish and get his high school diploma. He now owns his own company, moved to Columbia, and from Columbia went to Tennessee, where he has a staff of about 10 employees of doing furniture, moving furniture in Tennessee, but he's looking to come back to South Carolina in the summer. These two brothers, they're special to our heart. We got them from Charleston at the age of 12 and 13. We couldn't keep both of them together because one was more, they had to take care of the family at an early age. So they were left on the streets to fend for themselves with 3 other siblings. So the older brother and these two brothers came to us. We didn't get the other siblings, and he ended up going to jail. So we worked with the younger brother. He told his brother, I need you to stay there. Don't cause any trouble so you can get back out and take care of the family. He is now married with children in Charleston, South Carolina. This is his family, and he's a supervisor working for the city of Charleston. In Sumter County, in the year, I think, 2011 to 2015, we worked at the Old Intimidators with over 1,000 kids a day, from 1,000 to 800 children a day during a summer camp program. I don't know if you all remember that. It was hard getting in and off of Pike Road. So we dealt with children of all ages. We had staff. We gave them activities to do, fed them meals during the day, and then we also worked with them in our parochial school. And I think that's it. Okay. If given the chance, we would like to say about working with you guys to take some of the load off the district and the Maywood Middle School that's vacant now at this point. Thank you.
Mr. Chair, may I ask a question?
Okay, thank you so very much. Thank you. And now we'll call for Mr. Pinckney.
Oh, is that the last one? Mrs. Pinckney?
Good evening, everyone. So my name is Karen Pinkney, and on tonight, excuse me, I would like to introduce to some and reiterate to others who I am and who I represent tonight. I currently hold the position of state president for the South Carolina Association of Student Councils, where we've made history in Sumter. I'm the first African American female to ever hold this position in 75 years. As state president, one of my major responsibilities of this position is to plan and organize the annual convention in March. After obtaining this position, I have been faced with some obstacles that have been presented to me by many things. I am here tonight to ask for your support to help make this convention be the best it can be. Not only are you supporting me, you are supporting these people behind me and other student leaders around the state. You may be thinking, how can I help? So there's many different areas in this convention take place to make it successful. Usually every year we host up to 600 people. This year we're estimating about 700 just so we can get a proper number. So monetary donations are always welcome. You as well as I know that these things are not cheap. Food, paying for conference amenities, swag gear for people to take back to know that Sumter, they remembered Sumter in a positive light. Physical donations, we like to, in SASC, we like to give our delegates an opportunity to take notes. Though you take mental notes, it is better to write them down. So notepads, pens, things to hold these items in. Their water bottles, they'll be at Sumter High for the whole weekend, so they'll need lots of things to keep them pumped and ready for the new experience they'll have. And another way you can help is visual representation. I know our district is known to being out there, showing our faces, and getting the community to know that we are united as one. So what better way to do that than to see the entire state know that Sumter School District supports their own. Our convention is March 17th through 19th, and I think Mr. Palumo gave you guys invitations, and in those envelopes are invitations to the conference as well. So our conference is March 17th through 19th, hosted at Sumter High School, and we would like you to come, not only just to come for one day. We want you to come throughout the entire weekend to show your face, show your support, be there physically as well. This year's conference theme is the Diamond Jubilee of Leadership, which celebrating the glamour of leadership throughout 75 years of our program and our organization. We want to invite you as well to our banquet, which is hosted on Saturday, March 18th at 6 o'clock p.m., where the attire is after 5 attire. Not only is Sumter High hosting this wonderful convention, we also hold the title of 2 other state level positions. So we host the FBLA state convention as well the week before this convention, and the week after we host the Junior Civitan State Convention, where we hold the state title for that as well. So I would like to open the panel for any questions on how you guys can support us in this endeavor.
Technically, we cannot ask questions at this time, but what I would like to do, since you've had, if it's all right, since you've had some conversation with Mr. Palumbo, I'm going to ask that Mr. Palumbo and Ms. Johnson be the liaison for our board and sit with you all and find out exactly what we can do as a board to support your effort. We want you to be successful. And I want to say on behalf of this board and the community here, you have made one wonderful presentation tonight. Thank you all so very much for coming, and we'll look forward for some more dialogue with these 2 people representing us, and I'm promising for the rest of us that we will help you all we can. Okay?
Thank you.
It sounds great. It sounds great.
Thank you.
Let's give those kids a big one.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. They can just report back. Yes, sir, that's fine. They can just report back and let us know. They can let-
Yeah.
Yes, sir. Okay, sir.
Okay. The next item. Oh, yes. Ms. Galloway, do we have any electronic submissions tonight? None? Okay, thank you very much. Let me back up a bit and acknowledge that Mr. McLeod has not yet arrived. He will probably join us after a while. And I think Mrs. Smith is out of the city, out of the state, and will not be here tonight. And I do want to acknowledge that. Oh, yeah, She is here. She is here via Facebook or some other platform. There she is. Yeah. That's Zoom or something like that. Good to see you. Thank you very much. Do want to acknowledge your presence, okay? And I also want to extend our condolences to the vice chair who lost her brother, okay? You in our prayers, okay? Now, we're down to announcements from the board.
Mr. Chair,
Yes, sir.
I'd like to make an announcement.
Yes, sir.
Good evening. I would like to recognize Lakewood High School. I'm not sure if Dr. Wright is in the building, but if she doesn't mind she's here? Okay.
Yes, sir.
Go ahead and stand up for me, please. I would like to say thank you to Dr. Wright, the faculty and staff of Lakewood High School. On last month, January was Board Recognition Month. And this fine, great school, which is my alma mater, recognized me and celebrated me on behalf of Board Appreciation Month, and they gave me my own day over there at Lakewood High School, January the 25th. So I'm forever grateful. I want to say thank you to the students, to the choir who sung so beautifully to me as well. And again, thank you for all you do, and thank you guys as a whole entire school for what you've done for me. Thank you.
And, Mr. Chair, I would like to make an announcement as well.
Yeah.
I would like to build on what Dr. Reagan just mentioned, in that last month was School Board Appreciation Month, and every school in the district actually did a wonderful job reaching out and sharing with the school board members. We will forever be grateful for your generosity. What you do for our students day in and day out is second to none, and we appreciate your service. So on behalf of this entire school board, not speaking for our chairperson, but just on behalf of us, we appreciate you, and we want you to know that we will continue to work with you and do what we can to support you. Thank you.
Well, I think each one of you who went to a school should say something. Anyone else?
I would be happy to. I was privileged to go to the we used to call it Career Center, but it's the Career Center Technology Center, Career and Technology Center. It's not the old Career Center. If you have not been to the Career and Technology Center, you are missing out on what we offer. I can't even describe each and everything I saw, or I like to call them professors that I saw presenting in each of their areas, but it was phenomenal. We have a right to be proud of what we have at the Sumter Career and Technology Center.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make an announcement as well.
Yes.
All right, so this is a little out of line for what everybody else is saying, but I just want to take a moment and just express my gratitude for Dr. Wright, Ms. Scott, and the administration of the district. As I go around and talk to folks, we're talking from coaches, citizens, teachers, there is a level of optimism and a level of hope that this community has right now, and I think under your leadership, we expect and we're hoping for big things. So I just want to make that clear to you all. If you don't hear it on a regular basis, you need to, and from my heart, I thank you. So thank you so much for what you're doing.
Thank you, sir.
All right. Anyone else?
Oh, sure, Mr. Chair.
I'm sorry, Ms. Smith? Hold on a second, we're not hearing you.
And the principal there, Ms. Edwards, I believe is her name. She worked on this for school board appreciation. She did a fine job. Principal Edwards is doing a great job. Fortunately, the weather was terrible
Mr. Chair,
Yes,
I just want to, couple of things during, I want to thank Shaw Heights, Dr. Morris and her team, and Ms. Smith, the counselor, especially Ms. Smith. She loves those kids. And I appreciate everything that they showed me around at Shaw Heights. Also, one I know Dr. Wright is going to mention is over at Alice Drive Middle. We got to see the orchestra, the honors orchestra, and that is directed by Mr. Baird, and he's doing an outstanding job out there. So thank you.
okay. Miss English?
Say the best for last, right? I would like to thank Oakland Primary. I had an awesome time at that school. They have actually a book vending machine for the kids where they get rewarded and they get little gold coins and they put it in the machine and the books come out. So that was an excellent, they made me feel right at home. So I would like to thank them.
Mr. Chairman.
Ms. Jones?
You are saving the best for last. I just would like to say a special thank you to High Hills Elementary and to their staff there for the recognition. I had my name in lights for the first time in my whole life on their marquees, on their sign. But the great work that they're doing there at the school, not just for our military kids, but for all the kids here in Sumter. And especially with the Leader in Me program that they have instituted there and the great success that that has been. They're doing a phenomenal job, and I always enjoy going over and visiting their school. So thank you.
I had a wonderful morning over at Wilder, visiting with Mr. Wright and with staff and students. But I must be honest and tell you, one of the students, a young man by the name of Amadi, stole the show. He was being escorted to a class by one of the aides, and we stopped to speak to him, and he immediately grabbed David's hand on one side, my hand on the other side, and insisted that we walk him to his class. It was a moving moment, and it certainly made our day. All else said, again, thanks to the entire district and the entire community for making Trustees Month such a memorable one. I'd also like to announce that I was contacted last week and been invited to be a presenter at the new chairman's workshop down at at Hilton Head on Thursday. So just wanted you to be aware of that. Now, I would like to make these appointments to committees. I'm not going to do the public members tonight. Just going to do the board members for curriculum instruction and assessment. Chair Bonnie Disney. Denise Jones, Sean Reagan. Facilities Committee, Sean Reagan, Mac McLeod, and another member to be named later. Fine Arts, Tara Kaiser Johnson, Sherry Smith, Jeff Zell. Finance Committee, Daniel Palumbo, Chair, Tara Kaiser Johnson, Jeff Zell. Policy Committee, Sherry Smith, Mac McLeod, Brittany English. Public Information, the Chair, Denise Jones, and Daniel Palumbo. And for the Career and Technology Advisory, contact Brittany English. And the legislative assignments and others will be made later. Okay. All right. The next item on the agenda is the superintendent's report.
Mr. Chair,
Yes.
you made the chair of the curriculum committee, but I didn't hear you call the chairs of the other committees.
Oh, the first person named was
Was-
the chair. I apologize. First person, chair, I don't want to call it the CIA committee, but Chair Bonnie Disney, Facilities Committee, Sean Reagan, Chair, Fine Arts, Tara Johnson, Finance, Daniel Palumbo, Policy, Sherry Smith, Public Information, the Chair. Any further questions? Okay, if not, we'll continue to the next item on the agenda.
Mr. Chair, members of the Board of Trustees, first of all, I want to say, as you saw tonight already, we do have some amazing students in our district doing some amazing work. So every time I get the opportunity to say so, I want you all to know that I'm a proud superintendent and proud to be doing this work. We certainly have a lot of work ahead of us to grow and get better. But I'm certainly pleased with the progress of the district, and thank you for the recognition tonight on a personal note. Around the district, we are celebrating Love the Bus, which is a month-long celebration held every February by the American School Bus Council. This celebration highlights the important role of the yellow school bus in education, with a particular focus on thanking school bus drivers for safely transporting children to and from school every day. We are proud of the outstanding job our bus drivers do for our schools and the school district. As a way of thanking school bus drivers statewide for their commitment to keeping students safe, February 13th through 17th has been designated as School Bus Driver Appreciation Week in the state of South Carolina. Thank you to our bus drivers for your dedicated service to our children. Last week, we also celebrated National School Counseling Week, which highlights the essential contribution of school counselors and the tremendous impact they have in helping students achieve school success and plan for careers. Please don't forget to take a moment to thank your local school counselors. The Sumter Career and Technology Center, as we heard mentioned earlier, is a third-time recipient of the Gene Bottoms SREB Pace Setters Award. The SREB recognizes outstanding middle schools, high schools, and technology centers that have implemented, SREB's school improvement frameworks and are achieving success in meeting bold goals related to graduation, readiness, and credential attainment. Also last week, the Alice Drive Middle School Honors Orchestra was the featured performance at the South Carolina Music Educators Conference. Under the direction of Michael Bayer, the orchestra also treated Trustee Daniel Palumbo and me to an exceptional performance at the school last week. We heard 5 amazing performances, and congratulations to that group on a job well done. Nathan Hallman, who is a 4th grader at Willow Drive Elementary, and music teacher Jessica Bettinger represented Sumter School District at the South Carolina Elementary Honors Choir held in Lexington, South Carolina. The Honors Choir was under the direction of our very own Herbert Johnson, who serves as the choir director for Sumter High School. A special thank you also goes to the Chamber of Commerce for partnering with Sumter School District to provide career leadership forums. Offered to middle and high school students, these forums were developed to help ensure students are aware of career opportunities in their local community and to provide a forum to discuss soft skills and 9 keys for success. I also want to take this opportunity of personal privilege and superintendent's privilege to remind us that we are hiring in the Sumter School District. I'm going to say that again. We are hiring in the Sumter School District. We want you to join our families. Please, we've got some flyers going out. We have advertisements all over the place. We have some some other districts that are putting up signs in our county, but we want you to come and work for and with us. And so the contact person is Mrs. Tiffany Walters. She is our Director of Teacher Quality. She's our recruiter for the district, and she can be reached here, 803-469-6900, extension 206. Those of you that operate businesses, if you'd like some flyers for us to distribute, we'll make that happen as well. And then last but not least in my update, the Sumter Career and Technology Center is presenting a community festival that will be held on Saturday, March 18th, 2023, from 10 a.m. until 2 p.m. at 2612 McCrae's Mill Road in Sumter, South Carolina. And at that particular event, there will be food, entertainment, vendors, music, games, and prizes. And the contact person for that is KIR.Smith@sumterschools.net if you need more information. Mr. Chair, members of the Board of Trustees, those are my rounded district report items for this evening.
Thank you, sir. 5.2.
At this time, we are moving on to 5.2, the Office of Finance. Our very capable Chief Finance Officer is approaching the seat, Mrs. Shatika Spearman. So we will turn over, Mr. Chair, with your pleasure and permission. She will present items 5.2, 5.3, and 5.4.
Good evening, board members,
Good evening.
superintendent,
Good evening.
and administrative manager. I sit before you to bring to you our Minority Business Enterprise Utilization Plan. This is a semi-annual presentation that we do, of course, twice a year that requires a vote of action at the end. Please note that this information contained in this report is audited every year during our procurement audit, which is ongoing right now as we speak. As far as the certified, the next screen, yes. As it relates to the certified minority businesses, small or minority businesses must be certified with the South Carolina Division of Small and Minority Business Contracting and Certification. Currently, there are approximately 750 certified minority businesses registered as of December 2022. Sumter School District encourages all minority businesses to obtain their certification with the state, but that is something that doesn't happen a whole lot. For them to be counted, they have to be certified. Sumter School District vendor application has a section to indicate if a vendor is minority and if they're certified. Lastly, semi-annually, we compare all vendors flagged in our system with the listing of certified businesses to ensure the accurate reporting of this. All bids are advertised in the South Carolina Business Opportunities. Currently, during the period of July 1st, 2022 to December 31st, 2022, 8 bids were received from a South Carolina certified minority business. The one vendor that is mentioned in the slide that was awarded the amount of $515,850 was Southern Roofing. Next slide. During the period of July 1, 2022 through December 2022, Sumter School District spent $153,358 with South Carolina certified minority businesses. Please keep in mind that the district does business with several other minority businesses. However, again, they are not certified through the state. They cannot be counted in the report. 95% of this activity with minority businesses were owned by women, and the 5% of activity was owned by African American male. We are currently doing businesses with 5 South Carolina certified minority businesses. The projected fiscal year 2023 budgeted expenditures are approximately $146,700,000. We do anticipate an increase in minority expenditures in the second half of this fiscal year. In the prior year, the total spent with South Carolina certified minority businesses for the entire fiscal year was around $884,942, which is approximately 0.73% of our budget. This concludes the minority business report. No questions? I'll move on to 5.3. 5.3 is our ESSER update. As of December 31st, 2022, ESSER 1 grant period ended on September 30th, 2022, and we reported to the prior board that we did utilize every cent of those funds. All funds have been spent and claimed for ESSER 1. So currently, ESSER 2 and ESSER 3 are still in operation. I did include in our slide the 15 allowable categories for ESSER 2 and ESSER 3 for your reference. Our plans have to be approved by the Department of Education, and so all plans for ESSER 2 and ESSER 3, of course, have been approved. As far as a general update for ESSER 2, ESSER 2 will end on September 30th, 2023 of this year. Currently, we have spent $20,373,000 of the $23,562,000 allocation. We have encumbered $1.7 million, so a total of actionable dollars of $22.1 million are to be spent in total. That leaves a balance of $1.4 million left in ESSER 2 that we have identified in our plan and will be working towards utilizing those funds. And we show the categories in each line on the slide. As it relates to ESSER 3, we were awarded $52,956,305 for ESSER 3. To date, we have spent out $4.1 million, and we have $6.9 encumbered with a total amount of $11,082,000 encumbered and ready and actually utilized. That leaves a balance of $41,873,000 left to spend, and this grant will end on September 30th, 2024, next year. Any questions regarding the current ESSER update?
Mr. Chair, I do have a question.
Question?
Yes. Slide 3, number 3, provisions for principals and school leaders. Would you please clarify or define what that entails or what it means? Again, that's slide 3, item 3.
provisions for, I'm sorry, I can't see. Oh, okay, provisions for principals and school leaders. That is related to, we can utilize that for professional development. We can utilize that for, really, it's really going to be for things needed for the schools to assist them in the support level of these dollars. And so those specific items that we've actually spent those items on, I believe if we have those, some of these categories we did not plan for, our needs were not identified for those. So for ESSER 3, I don't believe we have any monies allocated for provisions for principals and school leaders. Because we didn't use all of the 15 categories, but we can look into see what those items can be.
Mr. Chair, may I ask a question in relation to that?
Yes.
Pardon? Oh, I see, yeah.
Starting, right now it's got $19.7 million in it. So, is there, are we able to get specifics on just what is being spent under the other category?
Yes, I've used, okay. Yes, I can detail out the other expenditure line items if that is what you want to see.
She says she will follow up with that information.
Any other questions?
May I follow up? I want to make sure I understand. For item 3, provisions for principals and school leaders. So I think you said that you have not actually allocated those, and I think you said those provisions may still be there?
Well, what it is that those are allowable categories, but
Right.
at the time of the plan, the district did not feel the need for that line item. I think most of it was roofing needs, getting the facilities up to date. A large amount was spent for that, and then maintaining support for after-school tutoring. And so the dollars were allocated for those things. So provision for school leaders and whatever that category was not specifically allocated. But I can look into those items to see what those items, what other districts have utilized that line item for, because we can make amendments to the grant, but what we needed for the district, that was determined at that time of the plan.
Great. So it is possible, for example, if professional development is needed per a principal who recognizes that the English language arts standards have changed and that they quickly need to have professional development, what you're saying is it may be possible for principals to apply for that.
Well, it may be possible for us to do an amendment.
To do an amendment.
But we do have current professional dollars. And
Right.
so what ESSER is, we need to treat ESSER as the extra
Uh-huh.
over what we already have
Uh-huh.
and utilize those dollars. We have state and federal dollars for professional development currently. And we need to utilize those because those
Right.
are kind of use it, lose it. You
Right.
don't use it, lose
Right.
it. And then let ESSER come in and be the extra that it serves.
Absolutely. But
Yes.
are you finding that those other dollars are sufficient?
Well, currently, we have been looking to make sure that principals know what monies that they have available for
Right.
PD.
Right.
And so at the point that it's not sufficient, we haven't been notified that it has not been sufficient,
Right.
and we can go down that route for alternatives.
I think that would be a good idea.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Mhm.
Mr. Chair, just one question.
Question?
In regards to the summer learning and after-school programs, what are we doing in detail to catch up? Because most of this, because it's for COVID, so I'm sure most of this is being pushed in that direction. What are we doing to catch up?
Well, we do have schools, when I first got here, that was one of my first duties, was to show the schools what they have available for after-school and summer school, for after-school dollars right now. And so at that point, there were several schools. Originally, the plan only allotted for, I believe, middle school and the lower schools for dollars for after-school. We did do an amendment. The board wanted us to do an amendment to have that available to all 27 schools. So we now have after-school dollars for that. Some schools did opt to use software to do that, to reach, and then others are actually conducting after-school tutoring, paying the teachers, having the students come in. They have to maintain rosters. They have to send that up to us so that Power School can be completed, and so that we can pay our teachers the additional pay that they are due for teaching that. So the schools are utilizing those funds. They know that they have a budget, and so we have someone in-house that is focused only on ESSER, that is monitoring those dollars.
So my follow-up question to that is, some of the schools already made up their mind to get software and all that, and some schools did something different.
That's right.
Of course, we have ESSER 3. Is there any way where they're kind of rethinking the, hey, that didn't work so well, so we're going to come back and follow what's actually being successful? Or better, maybe they change their mind. Is there a way to amend where they can actually use what another school is actually doing to?
Well, I think we only have 2 schools that are using the software piece of
Okay.
it, and then the others are doing in-house. And what we realized was that the plan called for maybe 5 teachers and then an assistant person to help, like a parapro or someone to help with the administrative piece. But because of the hours, they was like, okay, well, we're gonna stay within the budget, but we're gonna have different teachers. So their needs, we made it to where they can be flexible to have it work the way they need it to work, because 5 teachers may not be enough. They may need more, but they will stay within the budget and the hours. And so we've been very, very open to them, the flexibility for that, to achieve what they need. If they need anything, they know to contact my office for that.
Awesome. Thank you.
And if I may add to that, I have a clear expectation that that our principals continue to evaluate the effectiveness of programs, and then, we make adjustments as we need to based on looking at data and making sure that the programs are effective. So they understand clearly that we have the flexibility to be able to look and retool as needed. Yes, sir.
Mr. Chair, I do have a follow-up question, given something Ms. Spearman shared with us. As you consider breaking out, I know it's provision, or number 3, the provisions for principals and school leaders as to, it wasn't that one specifically, but what we are doing with these categories, would you designate which ones we are actually utilizing versus the ones that we aren't?
Yes, and that is, Madam, if I may say, that's already identified on the update, as far as like, for instance, on ESSER 2 update, we have the modifier column that says that we're using nurses and institutional support staff, those lines. So those are the categories that we're actually utilizing.
Okay.
And so, of course, that's not 15 for ESSER 2. At the time the plan was done, they had to select what the district needed, and that decision was made. And again, we've done amendments because needs arise, and so we've been able to be more flexible with these funds.
Okay.
Yes.
All right, that does help, and
That
it
helps?
does
Okay.
clarify, so thank you for pointing that out.
Thank you.
there a place in here where we are using some of this money to address those programs specifically?
You're speaking, I'm sorry, did you say Hispanic community?
The
Dollars to
Hispanic
help with the
community, yes.
Hispanic community? I can look into the plan to see if those are any dollars designated, and I can also look into the allowability of that, to see if those are some activities that we can do. I can look into that.
I know there's a program at Croswell that was having issues being funded, and I was wondering if maybe this is a location that we can find funding for that, because it is a huge part of the population in that area.
Okay?
Thank you.
We can certainly look into that and follow up.
Okay.
Okay, if there are no questions, we'll move forward to the current revenue and expenditure report. For the month of January, so we are at the revenue portion of this. We've collected about 39.95% of our expected revenue. Of course, we're over halfway through the year, and that is largely due to the timing of our state allocations and our local tax funds, and we normally get a lot of our tax funds at the end of the year. So right now, we are comfortable with being able to cover our expenditures according to our revenue, and our expenditures at the bottom on the second page. So to date, we have collected $58,600,662 of actual revenue. And we project to collect $146,295,907 for fiscal year 23. Those projections, if you notice, they change because we have reports from the Department of Ed. We have estimates that we do in-house to make sure these numbers are accurate each month on the reality of revenue collection. On the second page of expenditures, to date, we have spent about 43.64% of our expenditures, the expected expenditures. That's to the tune of $64,009,734 expended. I did note some variance explanations that I wanted to bring to your attention, and those are explained. So, as of June 30, as the auditors have notified us and the board, that we ended with a fund balance of $41,641,321. If we were to complete operations today, we would expect a projected fund balance, ending fund balance, of $41,771,876. And this is your financial report for the month of January 2023.
Mr. Chair, may I ask something?
Yes.
Does that projection include the possibility of people coming in to apply for a job and us hiring them immediately? In other words, should we suddenly get an influx of people who want to teach? Does that include a healthy sum for paying those folks?
Yes, since we have a certain amount of vacancies now,
Okay.
that really has served as a savings for
Okay,
us.
all right.
And so, yes, we have budgeted an expectation that we did on last year
Okay.
on what those possible vacancies are. We definitely have vacancies for those positions that we know we need.
Okay,
So, yes, the budget can sustain.
thanks. Thank you.
Mhm.
All right. All right, any other questions? Ms. Spellman, thank you very much.
Thanks, sir.
Yes, ma'am. Sir?
Mr. Chair, members of the Board of Trustees, first of all, I want to say to our students that are going to be recognized in a few minutes, we appreciate your patience. At this time, we're ready for item 5.5, And I'll ask the principal of Pacala Springs to come forward, Mrs. Michelle Curry McBride. You got some folks with you there too, okay? All right, very good.
My teacher here and AP coming. But good evening, Dr. Wright, Dr. Canny, and board members. I am Michelle Curry McBride, Pacala's proud principal. And at this time, I think Ms. Scott has our slide. Do you have our slides, Ms. Scott? I'll continue on. Well, we are here to present a proposal to actually change Pacala Springs' current mascot. And one of the slides will actually show that our current mascot, actually, there are 2 brave children, and then our proposed mascot is a crocodile. And we also have a virtual ballot data. That's the first slide. And the second slide is actually our current mascot. Let's see that. And then the next slide actually represents our proposed mascot. The next slide, we have a virtual ballot data that we did with our stakeholders. And initially, our students actually brainstormed a list of the mascots, so we wanted to certainly make sure that they were involved in this process. And then we noticed that we didn't get a lot of votes from the virtual ballots. So on the next slide, we actually have our paper ballot data with 145 votes, and again, a list of the different mascots. So our rationale on the next slide and the why, we want to change our mascot. We certainly want to mirror our feeder school. We have the Lady Gator back there, Lakewood High School. So we, as the elementary school, we want to mirror that. And this is my 4th year at Pacala, and I want to rebrand Pacala for the 23-24 school year. We've already changed our vision and mission statement. So this is something that we really are looking forward to, and then we've really been talking to the parents and community to make sure that we have all the buy-in. And I certainly want to thank these ladies behind me, my assistant principal and my teacher of the year, and Ms. Jennings back there that helped with, and Ms. Shelley Galloway with the rebranding process. And this concludes our presentation.
Thank you very much, Mrs. McBride and company.
Mr. Chair, are we not taking questions?
Yes, Ms. McBride. Question, Mr. Zell?
Yes, Mr. Chair, I have a few questions. I'm just going to ask them all just to get them out of the way so we don't have to go back and forth here if that's fine with you.
Sure.
All right, appreciate it. So first off, you mentioned the motivation, but you didn't actually tell us the motivation. So could you elaborate on that? What is your new mission and vision statement? How long has the Braves mascot been in existence? And then I've kind of been, I'll just leave it at that. We'll leave the questions there. And then I may have some.
Okay, well, the first thing I did want to, in terms of the motivation, just simply wanting to include the students, because I think that we've oftentimes, we include the parents, we include the teachers, our staff, but we fail to really get input from the students. So I think that was the biggest motivation behind it. The next question, if I'm over 55, if I remember, that our vision and mission statement actually says our mission is to educate every child every day in an engaging and equitable learning environment. And then our vision statement is that our mission, of course, is to educate. And then we went on to say the vision is for the students to be committed to a life of learning and independent thinking so that they may become productive and responsible contributors to a global society. And then your last question, I know that from what I understand, these ladies have been here longer than I have. The Braves actually started 1991 at the beginning when Pacala was actually built. Primary school, right.
All right, so we're talking 20 years plus in existence. Was there any motivation behind the change of this because of complaints or anything like that with this particular school's mascot?
Well, I think was it a year or two ago, that there was, actually someone came to the board, I think it was the chief, that actually expressed a dislike or distaste of the middle school, and then he made reference to the elementary school as well.
Okay.
in
So it's
terms of
just
the
one
Indian.
complaint, is what I'm gathering?
That, as far as I know,
Okay.
that's all the complaints I've heard. Uh-huh.
Mr. Chair, I think, I just want to clarify, did you also mention that one of the reasons or rationales for the change was to coincide more with the high school, the
Right.
Gators and the Crocs?
Right,
Okay.
the feeder school.
I didn't, yeah, right,
Uh-huh.
okay, thank you.
Any more? I don't want to jump up
I have a
again.
quick question. This may not be specific for you, but for the district. Is there any other elementary schools that are aligning their elementary school mascots with their feeder middle schools and high schools? Or is it Pecala Springs only? We don't have the answer on that, obviously. If you could find out, and I'd appreciate it.
I was gonna say, Mr. Zell, I'd like to get back with you on that one. That's a good question.
Okay? That's
Permission
good,
to
Ms.
leave?
McBride. I think that's
Okay,
it.
thank you.
All right.
At this time, I'd like to have Dr. Jada McLeod come forth along with Dr. Lamont Moore. We have some amazing students who have achieved what I would call a pinnacle achievement in terms of end-of-course testing. We will, with the board's permission, we'd like to recognize these students over the next 3 times that we gather. We are starting tonight with students in the area of biology, I believe, and we've got some amazing students that we're going to be presenting to you tonight.
Good evening. It is a pleasure to be here to acknowledge the achievements of these students that scored a perfect score, raw score of 100 on their Biology 1 EOC for the fall semester. We have 20 students that we'll acknowledge tonight. And as Dr. Moore calls the students forward, I ask that the principal and if the teacher is available tonight also come forward as we acknowledge our students. We need Ms. Galloway. Oh.
All right, good evening, and we do have representation from every high school, so we're excited again. From Crestwood High School, the first recipient is Gabrielle Bird, if she's here. Gabrielle Bird. All right, Aaliyah Davis from Crestwood High School. Ashton Dempsey, Crestwood High. Christian Martinez. Aaron Ortiz. Kenzie Reed. Janaea Simon. Elizabeth Taylor. Angelina Bennett. Fatima Jing. And that concludes Crestwood High School. Kenzie Reed. All right, now we're going to move to Lakewood High School. Aiden Steele Allen. Riley Warenga. And that concludes Lakewood High School. At Sumter High, we have Andrew Jowers. Manuela Garcia Riquelme. Caitlin Mikowski. Jameson Moffitt. Omarion Oaks. Jason O'Neill. Nathaniel Smith. Shelby Greco. And that concludes Sumter High School.
Mr. Chair. You ready for the next? Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Mr. Chair, members of the Board of Trustees, at this time, we will proceed to item 5.7, which is an update that the Board of Trustees requested on Kelly Services. So we're looking for human resources personnel to come forth to make that presentation. And here's our Chief Human Resources Officer, Dr. John Kumas, Atoll.
Good evening. First of all, thank you for allowing us to come in tonight and present to you. I have with me Desiree Chase and John Meekins from Kelly Services, Kelly Education now. Desiree is going to do a short presentation to you just to show and give you an update in reference to Kelly Services and where we're at with them. They came on board in September, and we've been using them to put subs in our classroom since. So at this time, I'm going to let Ms. Chase give you a short presentation, and then we can answer questions afterwards if you like.
Thank you, Dr. Kumas, and thank you, board members. So if we go to the next slide, I'm going to show you the few topics that I had prepared. We're going to first go over the total number of subs that we have now. Then we'll go to the fill rates and how what that looks like since we've started as compared to last year. We've got how many long-term placements we have, some pay rate comparisons for our custodial and paraprofessional substitutes as compared to local companies, and then a little bit about what we do to vet our subs, what the process is before we get them hired, and how we look at who we place in the classrooms. And lastly, a little bit about our incident management process, how we handle situations that come up in the classroom. If we go to the next slide, please. So when Kelly Education started in September 2022, there were 75 subs who came over from having worked in Sumter School District before. Sorry, did you? Okay. They were considered our transition subs. Oh, no, go up, please. Back up where you were. Yep, there we go. Now, as of the 8th of February, we had 270 active subs in the district. So we've increased the sub pool by about 200 since September. We are actively recruiting. We go to multiple community events each month and even multiple times per week. Okay, next slide, please. So this slide shows our overall fill rates and what changes we've seen in those since this last year. So from September 26th of this year to February 3rd of this year, we have filled a total of there was a total of 9,250 positions that needed fill. We were able to fill 6,740 of them. That is compared to last year. There was a slightly lower need of 8,194 positions. And last year, filled before Kelly Education was part of the district, there was 3,805 positions filled, which means what we've brought the overall fill rate from 46.4% to 72.9% increase since Kelly Education has come in and helped fill sub positions. If you're looking at instructional only, so this is our teachers, our paraprofessionals, and the classroom monitors that we have in iTutor classrooms, we've seen an increase of almost 3,000 positions filled, and an increase from 44.8% to 75.3%. Next slide, please. Okay. In case you are one of those numbers people and you want it broken down even further, we wanted to show you that increase that we've done since we started. So you can see when we first started, there was an increase of about 23% from the same time last year, all the way up to January through February 3rd of this, just last month through that first couple of days of February, we saw the rate go from 37.4% before Kelly Education was brought into the district to 77.3% now. Last year at this time, at that same time, there was just over 1,000 positions filled with substitutes. This time this year, there was over 2,300 positions filled. So we've really been able to get in and help those students succeed in those classrooms and help ease the burden from teachers so they don't have to cover as many open spots as well. Next slide, please. As of the 8th of February, we were filling 67 vacant positions with long-term substitutes. There's 32 teacher vacancies, 20 classroom monitors, 10 paraprofessional, 4 custodians, and 1 clerical. And then we were filling subs in 15 long-term absences. These long-term absences can be anything from maternity leave, FMLA, or any reason that a teacher would need to be out for 10 or more days consecutively. Next slide. So these next few slides are some rate comparisons for the custodial and paraprofessional positions. When Kelly Education started back in September, you were all very generous and did do a rate increase, bringing our teacher pay up to a very comparable rate with other school districts for, the teacher substitute rate. And we did get an increase for these support positions as well for custodial and paraprofessional. These show kind of where we are as compared to other businesses in the area, along with other school districts. So we can see here, this is specifically looking at custodian positions compared to local districts and local companies that were hiring very similar positions. Sumter School District is currently paying quite low as compared to other positions. This has hindered our ability to recruit custodial substitutes, as it's one of the recruiting struggles that we deal with when we're trying to recruit people for these positions. In the next slide. So the paraprofessional pay rate comparison, these are compared to districts that Kelly Education services in the local area. We have many different districts that are quite close here to Sumter. And if we compare the rate there, you can see that Sumter School District is not the lowest paying by any means. But we're a little bit lower, and what we're seeing is that our fill rates for paraprofessional positions is not quite as high as we would like as compared to teacher positions that we're able to fill. You can see on here that in January of 2023, 68.9% of absences or vacancies for paraprofessional positions were filled, as compared to the teacher rate, which is not up on the slide, but for the same time, we were able to fill 78% of teacher positions. So we're doing quite well on teachers. We still have a long ways to go, but we are seeing a little bit of a struggle in filling those paraprofessional positions. The next slide. This is just comparing entry-level jobs in general. I pulled all of this data from Indeed.com, a local employment site, looking at similar education levels and experience level jobs. So these aren't necessarily the same type position. This is not a paraprofessional, but it is positions that did not require much beyond a high school diploma, or some didn't even require a high school diploma. And so we were just trying to compare this to the rates that were offered as well here. Okay. Next slide. Okay, so we've had some questions about our substitute vetting process. So I worked with our recruiting team, and I wanted to provide this information to everyone here as well. When we have someone contact Kelly Education, that's our initial interest conversation. We talk to them a little bit about why they might want to be a sub, how they heard about us, and who referred them. After that, we move on to the application, where we collect all of your regular application information. We also collect work history and references, and we do follow up on references as well. Following this, the the candidates are sent a behavioral and situational response survey. This is a survey where they answer questions like, how would you respond in situation X? And we look at their answers. Any answers that we are question a little bit or feel like maybe they're not great, we talk about that in our interviews. If they totally don't do well in these questions, we might not move on past that point. Then we have our interview process. Right now we're conducting about 75% of our interviews either through video conference or face-to-face at our Florence office. 25% of those interviews are done over the phone. These are usually for people who struggle with getting into these video conference situations, so we do them over the phone. We are looking to increase our face-to-face opportunities, and we've just set up some opportunities starting next week, actually, where we're going to be able to have our recruiter here in the district office to do some more face-to-face interviews with Sumter people, so we don't have to have them travel as far or deal with some of the technological challenges that might be presented in a video conference type interview. Once they've made it past the interview and we've decided that we want to move on with the hiring process, this is when we will start our background checks. We do a SLED check and a National Sex Offender Registry check. We offer them position-specific training that is online-based. In these trainings, they do have to pass a test at the end of the training, and they have to get 100% before they are able to move forward. They are able to take the test more than once. It doesn't give them the right answer, though, so they can't just take it, write down all the right answers, and try again. But they are able to try this again after they reinitiate the training and go through it again if they don't pass with the expected 100% to start with. As part of this process for getting them completely onboarded, we also do go over the Kelly Education dress code, ethics code, and behavioral and professional expectations as well. And they sign documents stating that they have read these, and then we go on from there. When we get an incident from a school, usually what happens is the principal or the bookkeeper, secretary, someone from the school calls me and lets me know what's happened. At that exact moment, I get on and I create what's called an incident report with our Kelly incident team. In the process for these these incident reports is that the sub is contacted and their account is immediately deactivated pending investigation of the incident. With these investigations, we do an internal investigation with Kelly where we communicate with the school admins, we communicate with Kelly staff, and if needed, we communicate with any public officials that may be involved as well. The subs also have to provide documentation on their side of things and what happened in these situations. We collect any video or text message evidence, anything that we've got evidence for if the situation deems that necessary, and we put that as part of our internal investigation process. Once all of this information has been collected, we have a dedicated part of our HR director's team that deals with incidents for the Southeast, and they review these and look over the entire work history of these substitutes to determine if we still feel like this is a good placement for them. Our number one priority is our students' safety and the quality of education in the classrooms. And we make sure that we're not putting people back in the classroom that shouldn't be there. Depending on what that investigation came to, we've got different outcomes. We've got coaching and counseling that we do with our subs. We have dedicated people on our training teams that work directly with these types of incidents. We offer them additional training, and it can be required depending on what needs to happen. We can also remove privileges. For example, if we have a sub who calls out sick a lot on the same day, or if they're not showing up for assignments that they've signed up for in the past, we can take it down to where they can only sign up for an assignment 2 hours before the assignment starts and things like that. So we can make sure that the schools can count on our subs and that we're not dealing with a lot of punctuality issues. We can also set up exclusions. Maybe that sub is just not good with younger students or older students. We can make sure that they're set up in classes where they're going to be successful and where the students are going to be able to learn to the best of their abilities. And if necessary, of course, we can move on to termination. Okay. This slide is more for what we send out to our principals and our other admins, and it just walks people through what to do in a medical or workers' comp incident. Kelly Education takes care of all workers' comp for the subs that are contracted through Kelly Education, and so we have our own workers' comp process, and we make sure that everybody is safe and taken care of, especially in a medical situation. Okay, next slide. Okay, I don't know if Dr. Kumis wants to share some things before questions, or if you want to do questions now.
No, if you have any questions, we'll be happy to answer anything I wasn't exactly sure what you were asking for tonight. So if you have any questions, Anything at all dealing with Kelly education, please ask.
A couple of questions. First one, I know we may have a small problem with physical trainers in the district. And Kelly is known, they've had nurses and possibly, I don't know, in the physical training side. What can we do to use their services as a temporary means to get somebody permanent? That's my first question. I got to follow up after it.
There is a process that, Kelly brings someone in, if we decide to move them on board permanently with us, there's a fee. There's a fee for 30 days, there's a fee for 60 days, and then there's no fee after 90 days. So if they come in and they're doing well, if we keep them for 90 days and then they're still doing well, if we want to hire them at that point, there's no fee, we can absolutely transition them onto our district at that particular time.
I'm talking more, and I understand that portion of it. I'm talking about more for nursing and physical training. Can they use Kelly services, the nursing, to kind of fill in some of those gaps, and more specifically the physical training for some of the high school sports and stuff like that?
John?
Absolutely for the nurses. As far as the physical training goes, that's something that we need to take a look at and see if it's something that we would be successful at with you guys. But
Yeah,
certainly take a look at it.
Definitely, if we can look at it. I know the nurses, I know you have to pay more, a lot more, for the nursing, but if we can somehow roll in physical, because I know we're having some issues on the physical trainers. If we have this as a temporary fix, I don't see a problem trying to tap into Kelly. In the meantime, this could be an easy fix or easy temporary fix until we get somebody permanent. I know for Crestwood is looking for physical trainer, and I know they're kind of borrowing from Sumter High. So if we can if Kelly is allowed to be able to jump in there to try to find a physical trainer, I don't see what the problem is to get somebody out there.
Just real quick, we just need to take a look at that job description and see what it entails and test our safety department's appetite for it, if that makes
Gotcha.
sense. Yeah.
Gotcha. And then in regards to school busing, I know Kelly will never touch school busing, but I know there may have been a program where you can actually use, some of these school bus drivers are looking for more of a long-term. And I believe Kelly had something where they can work it, where they can make some of these bus drivers subs and weave them in, and then now we have more stable bus drivers out there. So can you elaborate on a little bit about that and the solution, or can we start doing that?
Actually, we do that right now.
Okay.
If we have a bus driver that is looking for a paraprofessional position or a cafeteria position, a custodial position, we bring them on board now and offer them those options. And we have several folks in the district now that have those dual roles, that are bus drivers and paraprofessionals in the classroom, custodians and cafeteria. We have some cafeteria folks that do the same thing. When they get off, they work as custodians in the evening shift. So we're already expanding on all of that.
Okay.
Yeah. And as far as having the bus drivers work through Kelly Education, we would have to reevaluate some things with dual employment, which is why we can't do it right now, because per the contract stipulations, we can't have anybody on our payroll that's also on the school district payroll. So there is options to do that, but it's not how it's set up currently right now. We would have to do some more investigations.
Can you bring that to the board to show that option so we can start, if we could, and start doing that? That may be alleviated. I know Mr. Myers, that would help, having more school bus drivers out there. That's just something to look at to try to connect, and so we can help out Mr. Myers. The other thing is, how many do you have is crossed over so far this year? As in, they made their hours and crossed over, now permanent?
I don't think we have any that have crossed over in reference to time. We had, when we entered into this agreement with Kelly Services, we gave them our subpool. So they transitioned over, so there was no fee associated with those folks. So the ones that have transitioned from that time to now, I can get you a number.
Okay.
But we have had a couple that have transitioned over from our pool.
Yes, your pool.
Yes, sir, to full-time employees with us now.
Do
I'll
we,
get you a number of that.
do we have any idea of potentially any that we have that are getting close to the hours that are gonna be crossing over and we're offering that to get them on board?
Yeah, we do have a fairly good-sized pool of subs that will be at that 90-day mark, where there would be no fee associated. Probably within the next 5 or 6 weeks, they'll hit that mark.
And we do have some folks that are interested in some principals right now that are interested also in bringing some folks on.
Gotcha. And then lastly, have we had any major incidences that we had to go through?
We've had a couple of incidents, but they have been dealt with. And Kelly Services, normally when they have an incident at the school, they notify Desiree and Ms. Chase. They also call me, they're on it immediately, and we deal with it expediently.
Okay.
So,
But it's
we've
been
had-
a small
we've had
percentage.
It's been small.
Okay.
No more than what we have, no more than what we had when we were
We're
doing
doing
it.
it. Okay. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Mr. Chair, I have a couple questions.
Yes, sir.
All right. So I noticed in your slideshow, it talks about background checks,
Yeah.
things like that. Is there a specific drug test that y'all require for hiring, or is it just criminal, things like that?
For now, it's just the criminal background check. We don't have a drug test.
So there's
that we
no drug
require.
test? Okay.
No, we do require a TB test, but that's obviously
A
different.
what?
A tuberculosis test.
Okay.
Which
Not even
everybody
close to a
does.
drug test. Okay.
No.
All right.
If I could remind-
Sure.
There's not a district in South Carolina that requires any type of drug test as a
Okay.
condition of employment. Just
Really? That's interesting. Okay, I just have a couple more questions. I'm just gonna throw them all at you, just to save time. All right, as far as your code of conduct and behavioral conduct requirements for your subs, is that lined up with the districts? Or is there any major variations from the district's requirements? And, okay, all right, so if we are bringing on somebody, it's an easy transition from, at least from a behavioral code of conduct standpoint? Okay.
Yes, sir, absolutely.
All right, what is, well, I'm not even gonna get, because it's probably like the secret to the business, what the recruiting efforts are, but, so we'll keep that, I won't ask that question, but, how long does it take to hire? Once y'all start the process, how long, and that'll be my last question, how long does it take from application to hire?
So the application speed and the hiring process really depends on how responsive the candidate is to the email and computer system prompts that come to them. We can place people in a classroom within 5 days if their background checks come back quickly. We do run into some states, particularly New York and California, that their background checks take a very long time to come back. It can be 4 or 5 weeks before those ones come back. But especially for people who have lived just in South Carolina, their background checks usually come back quite quickly, and we can place them within a week. The average time to completely onboard someone is probably around 2 to 2.5 weeks. And that's including, that's the training time, that's them getting in a classroom.
All right, if I may, this is more towards HR director. Is there any hiring requirements for drug tests within the school district once you bring people on into the district?
No, sir. If we suspect someone of being or using drugs, at that point, we address it at the end. If someone is involved in a motor vehicle accident and driving a vehicle that is district-owned, then they absolutely go for testing. If they drive a bus, it's the same deal.
So we're not confident that our teachers, our staff, our employees in this district are not, and I'm not implying or impugning anyone's character. We have great people, but we don't know if there are folks engaging in illicit drugs in this district, is what I'm, please clarify.
Yeah, we don't do random drug testing.
Can I elaborate on that just a little bit? Now, although we don't do drug screening, drug tests, we have a drug-free workplace, and they sign off on that when they're hired. But what we've found as an organization, Kelly, we've been providing work for folks since 1946, is that anyone can pass a drug test now at any time. And so the effect, the ability, meaning they stop doing whatever it is that they're doing for a couple weeks, pass a drug test. So what we found is that yeah, it really isn't helpful anymore. And so sign a drug-free, workplace agreement, and then if there's any type of cause or concern that someone may be under the influence, then we have the ability to address it at that point. Make sense? Okay, sure.
Mr. Chair, may I ask a couple questions?
Yes, you may.
I know we can't have a classroom without somebody in there. I know we can't. But, I spent a career in a high school setting, and I know some of these subjects are very specific. I mean, I can't teach physics, and I do not want to substitute in a physics class. But you put me in an English 4 class, and I am in my element. Now, so my question is, let's say a teacher, we know she's having a baby, and she's going to be out, and we need an English 4 teacher, and these are kids headed to college. How do you, is it possible to find somebody to pick up who knows what standards are? And those are technical terms. They are the concepts that must be taught, as said by the State Department of Education. Are they exposed to standards, or do they just walk in and pass out papers, collect papers, and tell kids to read?
So it depends kind of, if it's a maternity leave type situation like you're mentioning or a long-term placement, before I place any subs in a long-term placement, I first talk with the school and the principals and the bookkeepers there who deal directly with the subs and ask them if they've had anybody who has shown a particular strengths in these classes first. We do have a small amount of our pool who are certified teachers or recently retired teachers who we prefer to fill in those positions first, and we always do try. But if a school comes to me, we've exhausted the efforts of trying to find a certified teacher or someone with a degree in that position. When the schools contact me, I reach out to the sub pool and I tell the subs, I'm not just going to place you in this position. You're going to call me. We're going to discuss your qualifications. So I kind of do a little mini interview with these subs who are looking at long-term placements to make sure that we're putting someone in there who at least has a good handle on the curriculum. A lot of them are not certified. We do have a lot of subs who are working through education, and if they have strengths in those areas, we place them in there. So we do our best, but there are times when there are gaps there. But we try our best to make sure we're placing the most effective people in the classrooms.
Okay. And I understand it. If I may follow up. All right, would it be possible, let's say, Miss Betty's going to have a baby, but she knows in advance that she's going to be out. So would she be able to contact you or the school and say, may I work with that person? May I try to teach them what standards have to be covered while I am gone, and I'm going to show them the pieces of literature?
If Miss Betty is willing to do it. When they go out on FMLA or they go out on sick leave, we are not allowed to assign them duties or anything else. So it truly depends on whether the teacher wants to be involved. Some teachers are, and then some, when they go out on maternity leave, they're gone.
So who would the teacher talk to? I mean, if it were me and I were going to be out, I would be banging on your door.
Yes, ma'am. They would.
So what is the process that our school district has? Is there any way for us to hook them up together so that they have an opportunity to do this planning face-to-face and have some quality of education in the absence?
Yes, ma'am. Before they go out, there is. We can absolutely do that. There's also in quite a few of our schools those curriculum coaches. And our substitutes definitely have access to each one of those. Some of them are specific areas. We also have lead teachers in each one of our secondary schools. So that lead teacher usually steps in and helps as well with the substitute in the classroom. So, and if they need to go in during the planning period, they can easily go in during the planning period and give that support if they need to. And we pay our lead folks stipends to help people.
But I would hope that Kelly Services would maybe consider, let's see if we can partner with this.
Yes, ma'am.
I don't know if that's possible. All right, thank you.
Anyone else?
Mr. Chair, I just got one other question. For a long-term sub, some of these schools they know on average how many kids are gonna or how many teachers are gonna be absent. Do we have a plan or where, say, a elementary school, they know minimum 4 or 5 people are gonna be out during each day? Is there a way where Kelly can provide a long-term sub, just automatically give it to for that school instead of waiting to the last minute, and to know, hey, this person's long-term is to this school, dedicated to school, and we know there's a teacher's going to be out, so we don't have to be scrambling looking for a sub.
So we do, with many districts, have what we call a building sub program. It is something we could look into implementing here in Sumter School District. And we run the numbers to figure out how many absences per day on average there are at each school, and we would determine how many of these building subs we have. And it works just how you're saying. Say you have 2 building subs, the first 2 absences of each day would be assigned to those building subs. And those building subs know that they report to work every day. They are essentially long-term subs who fill multiple roles in a school.
So we really need to have that going, because that would even alleviate, even that percentage should be up to probably 80% or higher. So we really need to start looking at and get that,
We can ask Kelly Services to run us some numbers.
Okay.
And see how much it would cost the district.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, sir.
In vetting possible candidates for substitute teachers, what are the standards used? What's the criteria used in vetting
In regards to what?
substitute teachers?
I mean, we look at their employment history. Like I said, we have the behavioral and situational response surveys that we do. We do look at their educational background. The minimum educational requirement to be a substitute with Kelly Education for Sumter School District is a high school diploma. I don't know what else you're looking. What specifically? What?
Test they have to pass.
Oh yeah, they have to pass the training test with 100% on these tests before they can be placed into a classroom.
And Mr. Cummins, Dr. Cummins, what do you see as the major problem using Kelly employees in our schools, if there is a problem?
Dr. Canty, we have increased the number of substitutes going into the classroom. During the teacher advisory council, one of the big things for retention right now for our teachers is they're having to cover classes during the planning periods. And they're not getting the planning, the burnout, it's a lot on them. We went from 40% to 70, almost 80% using Kelly Services at this point. I think it's been a positive for us bringing these folks on board. The teachers in the Teacher Advisory Council are Teachers of the Year from the different schools have come in, and they've expressed their gratitude and their thankfulness in reference to the number of substitutes that we're getting now. Some of the situations we have run into are some of the same things that we've run into when we vetted our own substitutes and putting some folks in the classroom. We have gone from a 60 college credits and an associate's degree down to the high school diploma. And so we have quite a few other districts in the area because of the number of substitutes. It's hard to get someone to come in and substitute.
And didn't I understand, well, let me come back to that. So you don't see any major hiccups in the program, that's what you're saying?
No, sir, not at this point, I don't.
And didn't I hear you say that the that a lead teacher in each department sort of shepherds these substitute teachers when they come in?
We have department heads at each one of the, definitely at the high schools. We have, a department head in the science department and in the math department. And when these substitutes are in the building, part of them, part of their stipend, part of them getting that extra pay for being the department head is to help facilitate those areas and help these folks.
So is there anyone at the district level manipulating all of this substitute involvement in all of the schools and the lead teacher support and the sustained enrichment for these people who are not really certified to teach to be in a classroom?
Yes, sir. We also have our coordinators in the district office, and if someone needs, especially a long-term, if we have a long-term sub that's going into a classroom and they need the extra support, we do have the means of sending our coordinators out and helping them as well.
And for the day-to-day needs of running the substitute program, I am here in the district office. My office is in the finance cluster. I'm here every day. So I work with these subs and I provide them access to additional trainings. Each week, Kelly Education sends out a newsletter to each of the subs who are signed up throughout the country, providing them information on when we have webinars that are taught by highly experienced teachers and things like that to help focus on particular subjects such as working with special needs populations or whatever the needs are for that month that are being taught. So we do offer continual training that is specialized, that is from highly experienced educators across the country.
All right. Any further questions? Thank you, Mr. Superintendent. Thank you so very much for coming. Thank you for the presentation.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Chair, members of the Board of Trustees, we are now ready for item number 5.8, which is a Board of Trustees requested presentation on transportation update. That will be done by our Executive Director of Operations, Mr. Samuel Myers, and Mr. Brian Jones.
Good evening, everyone. Before I start my presentation, I would like to introduce our leaders who work with transportation. We have Mr. Brian Jones. He's our lead supervisor, and he's certified as a behind-the-wheel trainer, Mr. Jones. We also have Ms. Sandra Ludge. She's not with us this evening. She's a transportation specialist and a state-trained behind-the-wheel trainer. Mr. Joshua Johnson, he's here. He's a supervisor for Area 2, and he's our safety officer. Mr. Leonard Brailsford is here as well. He's a supervisor of Area 1, and he's a state-trained behind-the-wheel trainer. And Mr. Ron Turner, who's our route coordinator, and he's not with us this evening. Wanted to make sure you could see the faces of the folks who are leading our teams, of people who are working diligently. One of the areas that you had asked us to present to you this evening was about our drivers and shortages. You also wanted to know about our routes. And we're going to share some things briefly, and I'm sure we'll have some questions, and we will entertain those once we've covered that. We do have a short presentation that has been shared with you. And one of the areas that we talked about was driver shortages. Yes, we're short, not just with drivers. You just heard a wonderful presentation from Kelly's where we're not just short on the buses, we're short in the classrooms as well. So this is not just a Sumter matter. It's not just a local matter. It's across the state and across the country where they're working diligently to try to get personnel to transport our children to and from school. We have an extremely dedicated set of individuals who are transporting our children every day. on any given day, if you don't have anything to do at 5 in the morning and you want to go out and watch them get ready to transport our children, please feel free to join them. This is every morning. We have dedicated staff members at 5 a.m., some 5:15, 5:30, getting ready. And if you ever pass an area and you see those lights flashing on the buses, you know that they're ready to go get children. And in doing so, we beat our bushes every day. We do the very best that we can to find those drivers. And make no mistake about it. Yes, we're short, but I can say to you that the dedicated drivers that we have, they're running more than one route. They're running 2, 3, sometimes 4 and 5 routes to get our younger children to school first, our middle grade students to school second, and then our high school students. And so I'm going to ask Mr. Jones to just briefly talk about, just share some of the numbers of drivers that we have, and we'll go on to that next session as well.
Absolutely. Good afternoon. Looking at our number of drivers, monitors, and subs by area. Area 1 has 33 drivers, which consist of the Hillcrest lot, also the Crestwood lot. That gives them 5 sub-drivers and 4 monitors. Area 2, which is Sumter High School, has 13 drivers, 9 subs, and 4 monitors. Area 3, which is the Lakewood area, we have 16 drivers, 5 subs, and 9 monitors, giving us a total of 62 drivers, 19 subs, and 17 monitors. All of our drivers are state certified. They're training, of course, from myself and our team. We're able to train our certified drivers in-house, and we're able to prepare them to be behind the wheel. The next slide shows our total number of routes. We have 345 regular routes. That is our AM and our PM routes together. We have 20 special need routes, 3 of our Career Center, which is our Sumter and Technology routes. We have 6 Sumter Academy routes, and we have 3 midday routes, giving us a total of 377 routes. Our process for addressing the shortages, of course, we've received the 8% salary increase. We have regular trainings, and we attend those regular trainings and workshops. Ms. Walters is very good with the recruitment fairs. We are on social media, we're on radio, of course, newspaper, billboards, and LinkedIn. And last but not least, as mentioned earlier, it is bus driver appreciation. So for those that we do have, we want them to know how much we really do appreciate them. Last but not least, the total number of buses. In order to run those routes, we must have buses. And so we have 103 route buses, which would be our regular ed route buses. We would have 20 special need buses, giving us a total of 123 buses.
Okay, and the final piece of all of this, and I just wanted to share a quote. You can't go back and change the beginning, but you can start where you are and change the ending. That's our goal, taking it from where we are right now and leading forward, and doing that with the positive leadership and the training and the persons who are instilled in doing that, and it makes things tremendously better. And I say to everyone in this room right now, including our Board of Trustees, this is not just a Sumter School District type of effort. It takes everyone in this room, word of mouth to family, friends, and everyone else. And I'm pretty certain that we can find some folks, and we are finding persons who will come forward, and we get them trained, and we get them on the buses on a regular basis. So we'll yield here for any questions that you may have.
Mr. Chair.
Yes.
I do have a question. First, a clarifying question, and perhaps both are, but the first question, based on slide 3 and slide 5, am I looking at this correctly that we have approximately 103 buses, excluding the special needs buses, running 345 routes? Is that correct?
Right. The 345 routes would consist of the morning routes and then the afternoon routes.
Okay,
they're
so
combined.
round,
it's a total
basically
of
round trip?
Yes.
Okay, all right. And then, as far as these routes are concerned, I know you also mentioned that there are drivers who are running anywhere from 1 to 4 routes per day approximately. Is that spread out across all the drivers, or do some drivers simply have more routes than others?
Depending on their availability, also the dual road that Dr. Kumis spoke about minutes ago, we try to give those to the drivers in the area. When you're looking at routes, you look at distance, time, and the area. And so some drivers, if they're nearby, they're able to pick up an extra, say, 10 or 15 students. So they're able to combine, depending on the capacity, of the bus and the length of the route. We build the routes according to that when we're adding students to the route, if that answers your question.
It does answer my question, and I understand what you're saying, and I just want to be certain that that doesn't disadvantage some drivers from having opportunities that others may have for the various reasons you just named. And then my last question is, what area would the northeastern portion of the county fall in terms of 1, 2, and 3?
That would be area 1.
Area 1, the Hillcrest, Crestwood?
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Chairman, I have a few questions.
Yes, sir.
All right, so I'm just gonna, again, just throw them all at you once. If you have any, you need to follow up and ask me what I asked you, just please feel free. So first off, at least I understand, I think the board does, we understand that bus routes, transportation is a major problem with the district right now. And so we obviously have the heart and desire to, without speaking for the board, to alleviate some of those issues, but we gotta know some specifics. So that being said, and if you don't have the answer now, if you could provide them, I'd appreciate that. But first, so how many students do we pick up on a daily basis? What is the capacity of the buses? Ballpark, obviously I don't need specifics on that. I understand their starting pay is relatively low. And one question in regards to regular bus drivers and athletic coaches who also hold CDLs, is there a pay disparity or is there a separate pay scale for your regular bus drivers and coaches who also carry that CDL? Also, and I apologize, I know it's getting late, guys, but this is a big one. I understand we can take a lot of pressure off the system if we can get this right. That being said, let me get my questions here. So are there, I'm also been made aware, and please clarify if this is not true, that some of the folks that we certify in-house for CDLs, they are required to, for their annual recertification, are they required to pay for that out of pocket? And that's something I think, something that we could, might be something we could address as a board. And then, and these are my last few questions, I apologize again. I also understand there's a GPS system that is utilized. To what capacity are we utilizing that? And do we have a process to alert parents when children are going to be stuck at a bus stop when it's, inclement weather, things like that? And so, that's one of the things I regularly hear from folks. And how often, and this is a kind of a big one, and I understand that this is also adds to the delay of effective education, is how late on average, when we have buses that are late to their stops, how often does this occur and how late are they? Because we understand that creates a ripple effect in the classroom. And so I hope I didn't go too fast, and if you have any questions for me now, feel free.
Okay. The capacity of the buses are 65, 72, and 77. In looking at that, when you're looking at high school students, although it's a 77 capacity bus, depending on students, you may be able to get about 50 to 55 comfortably on that bus. Elementary, of course, you can get more. They're smaller. Middle school, likewise. As far as the pay scale, we will have to get back with you with that for as far as coaches and drivers. Made a note of that. Drivers' physicals, at this point, they are out of pocket. That is something that, we can discuss, Mr. Myers and I, and we can discuss later. You mentioned about the GPS. I'm pretty good with taking notes. You mentioned about the GPS. Yes, we do have the GPS on the buses at this point. There's still some tweaking and some fine tuning that we have to do. So at this point, what we're doing is we alert the schools. The schools alert, they can let the parents know when the buses are late. If there is a situation where a bus is broken down or whatever, of course, they contact me, we contact Mr. Myers, we do the chain of command. How late are buses in the mornings? I call it magic. We work magic, actually, to get it together. So you're looking at elementary, they're usually on time. Middle, high school, we know those credit courses, so we try our best to get them there at least by 9, and that's pushing it, but at least by 9. That's splitting routes, doing whatever we got to do, magic, to make it happen. So I hope I answered your questions.
Yes, sir. Just to clarify one point, as far as capacity goes, you mentioned that the capacity. I imagine that's with how many drivers and monitors you have. It's a ratio. What is that ratio?
You're saying with the drivers and the monitors?
Correct. I mean, if you say you can get 65, 72, and 77 on a bus, is that literal physical capacity, or is that administrative capacity based
That's
on?
just that's the state rated capacity. That's what the state says that the
Okay.
bus can hold.
All right.
But of course, we
Okay.
have to.
Yes, sir. Answer my question. Okay. Thank you.
Mr. Zell, if I might, from 25 years of working with school buses, the capacities that they list, that's what Mr. Jones is referring to. I'll go on record as saying that they are inaccurate. So you cannot get 77 children on any school bus that I've ever seen and have them seated comfortably. Yet the capacities will indicate that. So I think the numbers that Mr. Jones is quoting, around 50 or so, would be much more accurate than it would not be safe to operate a school bus, in my opinion, with 77 children of any size on it. Yes, sir. So just want to clarify that.
Mr. Chair, can you tell us how many of the coaches are driving buses? And are they considered regular drivers? Or are they considered subs?
Can't give you an exact number of the coaches, but we do have some coaches who are driving. I think we have to keep in mind that our bus drivers are state approved. They go through that state training, and they're the ones that we count on to drive those regular routes. As we utilize our coaches, they basically could be used as subs. I think what you all are wanting to know is whether they're paid the same as a driver, and there is a difference there. Because those drivers have X number of years of experience at driving that bus. And I'm not going to get too far into that. We'll share that with Dr. Wright, and he could disperse that as we get a clearer explanation. But we do have coaches who are driving for us, and we truly appreciate all that they do, 100% so.
And I know it's difficult. What if they have a football game, that's an hour away, and get home at midnight?
Well, once again, like Mr. Jones said, work that magic, and it happens. It happens. And that's why I'm saying we have folks who are giving of their time and energy, and we just truly appreciate all they've done and all they're doing and will continue to do.
Mr. Jones, Mr. Myers, can either of you tell us the longest routes you have? How long are they in terms of miles and hours it takes for a driver to run from point A to point B on that route?
Most of our routes are within the 90-minute time frame.
90 minutes?
Yes, sir. Within that window.
And back to the question about late buses. Do you all keep a record on late buses?
Absolutely, we do.
Yeah. And your response to that question was what?
Yes, sir, we do. We keep a record on late buses.
But to the earlier question about late buses, did you say you don't have any, or you have some that you're working with? You got some
We do.
problems with? Because I keep hearing that there are a couple of schools where there are at least a bus getting to school at 2 schools each day after the end of the first period.
We have a few buses that are late. If there is a driver that is out or absent and we don't have a sub, then of course we have to send an available driver back. And that's where we're falling in. That's where the shortage kind of hits us hard there.
Mr. Chair.
But what about in a case where it is consistent? It's been happening for a long time. At this one school, the same bus is late for the last year and a half. What can be done to resolve that kind of issue? Because children are missing a whole class period.
Now, there are times that we do make adjustments with, if that bus has been late for X number of periods of time, they try to readjust it and send them to get another route so that those students can get to school at an earlier time. So that piece about students being late for a year and a half, we have worked diligently to make those adjustments to get them there. And we do understand the plight.
Okay, so this is something that we could look at sort of fixing.
Sure, absolutely.
Okay. All right.
Absolutely.
Very good. Well, I'll share the information with you all and look to you all to be geniuses again and pull it out the hat, okay?
Absolutely.
All right, very good.
So I have a question.
Oh, I'm sorry. I recognized you already.
So a question to sum everything up. What do you need from us as a whole for more drivers going in? Let's give an example, July 2023. What can we do as a whole to get more drivers, whether it's pay increase, whether it's, bonuses, what can we do as a whole to come together to get more drivers? Honest, we're
right now we're competing with so many different venues out there. We're competing with McDonald's. We're competing with Continental Tire, Pilgrim's Pride, Walmart. We're competing with the other school districts. Every time we make an adjustment, they adjust theirs even more. And they're watching what we're doing because they know that we have truly certified and hard-working individuals. Why wouldn't you want to try to get them? And I think that in itself is not a good practice, but we know that we have folks who've been here dedicated to us, and I think once we show by whatever it's going to be, pay, bonuses, the appreciation, they do appreciate those things, and it's going to help us along. So as far as what you can do, help us find those folks. If we can pull them out of a hat, great. But I know that's easier said than done. But we've got a tall task in front of us, and they're listening to us this evening. And our drivers are listening to us this evening, and they have given us names of persons who have come on and have proven to be good drivers, because Mr. Jones and the others will tell you they do that training, and it's word of mouth. And they bring their friends on and family members, et cetera. So whatever we can do, we'd appreciate it.
Absolutely.
Okay. Mr. Reagan?
Yes, Mr. Chair. You can answer or you can choose not to answer. But looking at the progression of the realignment study, do you think, in your opinion, that this could be something that could solve the issue with the amount of late buses getting to the schools?
I don't think that the realignment would necessarily make that adjustment, because you're still going to be short drivers. And we can realign from now until, and we're still not going to have enough drivers to cover those routes. That just means we shifted somebody else to another area, but we're still going to have to run those routes. So, you know, there is another solution, and I'll just leave that to, you know, the superintendent to bring that on at some other point. But realignment, that's the only response I have for that. Is there anything? Thank you. Okay.
So basically, you're saying we're gonna have the same issues because we got the same number of drivers. Let's make that clear.
That's correct.
Until we increase the drivers, there's no need to be looking at realignment. Because we're gonna have the same exact issue. Kids are still gonna get picked up 6 o'clock in the morning. It's still gonna be late getting to school because you got the same number of bus drivers. So let's fix the root of the issue is we need more bus drivers.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
Mr. Chair. Mr. Chair.
Yeah, I'm please apologize. I apologize.
Okay, no worries. So, I know it's difficult talking about providing bonuses, and we know it's always competition even when it comes to that. Have we ever looked at offering anything to the current drivers to help us recruit other bus drivers? Some type of bonus, you bring a referral bonus, if you will. And if the person gets trained and hired, then they get that, whatever that referral bonus is. And it doesn't have to be anything I don't want to say significant, but a referral bonus as we know it, and it varies.
It's noted.
Absolutely. Mr. Chair, if I might, a couple of points to follow up, if I might. One, we back in the fall of the year, we got this 8% increase passed, and we did some step adjustments and so forth. But I want to be clear, that work that we did there is just the beginning. In order for us to attract and retain folks in all of these jobs, we're talking about transportation right now. I could get aboard a whole list of. We've got to be competitive, and when we are, as was stated earlier, when our competitors are McDonald's. I'm not hating on McDonald's. But when those are our competitors, we're going to have to do something different. So we need an all hands on deck approach. We're going to have a salary study that people are here this week. I'm going to be asking our employees questions to try to help us get some data. That information is going to be shared. But I have gone on the record, and I want to go on again tonight. For years, we've been talking about investing in education, I-O-N. Right now, we've got to start looking at investing in educators, the people that are doing the work. And we've got to get really serious about that. And when I say educators, I'm not just talking about the people in the classroom, although that's a very strong part of it. But it's also the people that I call the indirect educators, the people that work in our business every day, who may not be classroom teachers, but whose work is equally as important, which includes bus drivers, of course. Any school district understands clearly, if we're looking very closely, that if bus drivers decide not to do, we can't operate. And so we've got to get serious about those investments, in my opinion. So I'm going on record tonight, ladies and gentlemen of the Board of Trustees, to say that we're going to try to do all that we can to make sure that we are bringing you the information to help us make some decisions to try to take care of our employees as best we can.
Mr. Superintendent, I thought you were quite profound from education to educator. That
Thank you.
That was quite
Thank you,
a
Mr.
verbal
Chair.
transition. I like that. I like that.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Great use of words. But sort of joining in what you're saying, if you saw the Kelly, if we saw the Kelly report, even with our neighbors, not North Carolina and Georgia, but our neighbors in Columbia and Clarendon County and Florence, we are far behind in our pay scale. We need to be, we really need to be aware of that. Okay. All right. Thank you so very much for this update. We're going to have you back because we want to stay close to what's going on, because not just to scrutinize what you're doing, but so that we can be helpful to you in doing what you do better. Okay? Okay. All right? Thank you for coming.
And Mr. Chair, members of the Board of Trustees, that finally completes the superintendent's report.
Well, that's yeah, okay. That was a protracted report.
Yes, sir, it was.
Okay, we're down to item 6, the executive session. Can we get a motion, please?
Madam Chair, I make a motion that we enter into, Madam Chair.
Not Madam Chair.
I mean, search, I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. Mr. Chair, you gotta forgive me.
But I have not become a madam.
Mr.
But before. So he is here on. Right, sir.
Mr. Chair, I move that we enter into executive session for the discussion of individual student matters, transfer in and out of the district, and the monthly personnel report, discussion of compensation, employment, release, transfer, or of certified.
as long as this session has been. But if you cannot stay, we understand, and we appreciate your support of this district, and your presence mean more to us than you might ever know. Have a good evening if you're not staying.
Ms. Scott, is it going to populate?
It's open now. It should populate now.
It's not here. Oh, there it is, okay.
It did.
Vote is unanimous, it passes.
All right. Was that unanimous?
It was unanimous, it passes.
All right, that vote is unanimous. 8-1B,
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion to approve the release of student B to attend out-of-school zone.
I second.
it's motion and second. Is there any discussion? If no discussion, you may vote your pleasure.
Vote is unanimous, it passes. It's unanimous, it passes.
All right, it's unanimous. 9-1. Is that 9-1?
No, sir, we voted 9-2.
Okay, all right. 9-2.
Oh,
8-2.
8-2, yes, sir.
8.2.
Yes, sir. Which is 9-2 up there.
Mr. Chair, motion that the board approve the personnel report for February 13th, 2023 as presented.
Mr. Chair, Tar Johnson, I second.
All right, the motion is made and supported. Is there any discussion? You may vote your pleasure.
Yes, sir, we're good.
Did we change over these days?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yes, sir, that's right.
Vote passes unanimously.
Hmm?
Vote passes unanimously.
All right. It's a unanimous vote. Eight point three,
Mr. Chairman, Sherry Smith here. I'd like to make the motion to add a Fine Arts Committee and a Curriculum, Instruction, and Assessment Committee.
Mr. Chair, I second.
you heard the motion and it's second. Is there any discussion? Those in favor will indicate by voting your pleasure, please.
Vote passes.
Hmm? Unanimous?
It's not unanimous, but
Oh, all right, it's not unanimous, but it passes, all right. 8.4.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion to approve the Minority Business Enterprise Utilization Plan as presented.
Is the motion seconded?
I second it. This is Bonnie Disney.
All right. Is there any discussion? You may vote your pleasure.
vote passes unanimously.
Hmm?
Passes unanimously.
All right, it's a unanimous vote. Passed. 8.5.
Mr. Chair, I motion that for the approval of the McAllen Springs Elementary School to change their mascot and school colors.
Is the motion supported?
I second.
Thank you. You may vote your conviction. Eight point six.
Vote passes.
I'm sorry. I got ahead of myself. It passed. 8.6? No, I'm sorry. Yeah, 8.6.
Mr. Chair,
Yes, madam.
a motion for approval of the third and final reading of policy EBCB, safety plans and drills.
Mr. Chair, Sherry Smith here, I second the motion.
All right, the motion is made and supported. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, you may vote your pleasure.
Vote passes unanimously.
The vote is unanimous. Nine point seven. 8.7. I'm sorry. 8.7.
Mr. McLeod?
Who's making that motion?
Mr. McLeod. Mr. McLeod.
Huh?
Mr. McLeod.
McLeod. Mac McLeod.
Matt McLeod is making the motion?
I'm sorry, could y'all not hear me?
No.
No.
Okay. Mr. Chair?
Yes,
I
sir.
make a motion for the approval of the second reading to amend policy ARBD-R, organization of school board.
Mr. Chair, Tara Johnson, I second that motion.
All right, motion is made and supported. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, you may vote your pleasure.
Vote passes. It passes.
It passes. We're at to item 9, the closing of the meeting, and I'd like to.
Consent agenda.
Huh?
Consent agenda.
Oh yeah, I'm sorry. Did we miss the consent agenda? Yeah, all right, the consent agenda is before you. What is your pleasure? What is your pleasure with the consent agenda?
No objection.
No objections to the consent agenda. It stands approved. All right. Let me thank everyone for coming tonight. I appreciate the hard work that you do as a board. And I thank you, Mr. Superintendent, and you, Madam Manager, for the work that the two of you do, and all of the work that's done by the faithful people of this district. Have a good night, and we look to see you in 2 weeks.
Thank you all. That's it.
Closed.